We deny ourselves food, we try to keep our minds away from evil thoughts, and we suppress those urges that will normally consume us. The urges to eat, the urges to drink, the urge to get mad, the urge to do things that we normally do. But during Ramadan, we put all of that in check. All of that is put in check. So after putting it in check, we celebrate that victory, which is a great victory of the individual over themselves. So with that, I'd like to start my speech. Mr. Time, are you ready?
But you didn't answer how to celebrate.
Oh, the way to celebrate Eid, you know, in the U.S., my wife and I can tell you, we had bigger celebrations with family. We'll go to the masjid, there'll be fun events, a whole lot of different things. But here, we don't have that same opportunity. So we usually celebrate it quiet with each other or go with friends, or, you know, it's not the same here for us. But I know since this is your home, it's more of a festive celebration for you. Thank you, Mr. Barber.
Thank you.
Okay, my project is dealing with how to overcome difficulties. We all have difficulties in our life, right? Who here don't have difficulties? Wow, I would like to be like you when I grow up. Difficulty in our personal life, difficulties in our family life, difficulties in our work life. All of those things are difficulties that we are faced with. Now, if I were to ask you, when you run into a difficulty, whether it be something that is from your environment, and some people are born with difficulties, right? Yeah. They're born with impediments that would set them back. You know, either something physical, something mental, or something economical that sets them back and don't give them the same opportunity that others who don't have that difficulty have. So if I were to ask you, if you are faced with a difficulty, whether it be something personal, or something job-related, or something family-related, or something community-related, what would be your approach to overcoming those difficulties? And how many times would you try to overcome a difficulty? I know it's a vague question.
When I face difficulties, I usually try to think it through first.
Mm-hmm.
Ask myself, okay, what is difficult about this? And try to break it into pieces to see how I can overcome it. So first I start thinking about it to see what the difficulties are, what part can I control, what part can I not control, and then just do what I can to ground myself in how to overcome it.
Okay. Now, normally if you face a difficulty, how many times would you try to overcome it? Would you give up at some point?
It depends on what it means to you.
Yeah, it depends on what it means for some people. But one of the things, so when you face a difficulty and you try to overcome it, you have belief that you will win, right?
Yes.
And that's why I have this statement here. Believe in yourself and all that you are. Know that there's something inside you that is greater than any obstacle. Once you believe that, then you know your efforts are not fruitless, right? You know that your effort will bear fruit, that you will win. So that's the attitude, that's the mindset that we have to have when we face difficulties. Today I want to talk about 3 examples of people who faced difficulties and were very successful at overcoming them. Things that would normally set others back. And those are Thomas Edison, Muhammad Khatani, and my son Ibn. Now, I'll first start with Thomas Edison. Everybody knows that Thomas Edison is famous for what? What is he famous for?
Invention.
Invention, the light bulb, electricity. And what is it about him that is well known, that people talk about the most?
Never give
Never
up.
give up.
He never give up. He was asked by a reporter, a young reporter came to Thomas Edison and said, "Don't you feel like a failure? Don't you feel like giving up? I mean, you've tried so many times and failed. Shouldn't you just quit?" He answered, "Young man, I found 1,000 ways that will not work for making a light bulb. I think I'm close to it. I'll keep on trying." Most people will quit the second time, right? But he tried 1,000 times, so he's a great example of that. But the thing that a lot of people don't know is that he had some real serious physical, social, and financial difficulties. And let's talk about some of them. One is he had scarlet fever as a child, which left him 100% deaf in one ear and 80% in the other as an adult. Another is the teacher said to him when he was in school that he was too stupid to learn anything. So he was given a bad impression of himself. As a result, his mother got upset and took him out of the school system, and she homeschooled him. So he really didn't have any formal education. His mother taught him. He's a umi person, as you say in Arabic. Also, he was fired from his first 2 jobs for being non-productive. Imagine that. Starting his career. All these setbacks. Also, later on in his life, his mother developed mental illness, and his father was jobless. So he had to work, he had to support his family himself. So it wasn't an easy ride for him. His wife died. He loved his wife dearly. She was his best friend, his comfort, his source of strength. And when he died, it was a devastating thing to him. I think, how many of you were here when heard my speech about John Henry, who just caught his wife cheating, and after that he became a homeless person. He couldn't live anymore. He had no reason for living. But yet, Thomas Edison didn't let that stop. His film plant burned down. This is all his work for a number of years. 1914, his plant burned down to the ground. And you know what he did? He stood out there saying, "This is a fantastic fire." And he told his son, "Go tell your mother to come because she will never see a fire like this." You know? But he told his employees afterwards, "We will rebuild." And his attitude was not, "Oh God, I lost everything." He wasn't like that. He kept an upbeat attitude, rebuilt, and went on. Also, he failed many times. He had many fruitless experiments that didn't go right, that went wrong. But he kept on trying. Kept on trying. He did. And what he did is he came up with 1,368 inventions. His good friend Henry Ford and other inventors used to call him the Wizard. That was his name, the Wizard. And not only did he invent electricity, but the phonograph, the alkaline battery, they said he's the one responsible for the motion pictures. And we can go on and on and on with invention, but he did it facing all those difficulties. He did not let the obstacles hold him back. There was something inside of him greater than the obstacles he faced. That was Thomas Edison. Now we want to talk about another person, Muhammad Khatami. Rather than tell you in my words about Muhammad Khatami, I'll let him express himself about his difficulty, which I'm sure many of you may be aware of. So I'll let you listen to this.
And I believe we're going to talk a bit about your childhood.
Yes. As I was born anew, I uttered my first word when I was 6. And even after that, I started so hard that I became the laughing stock of school. But look where I am now. I'm not saying this to brag or to say, hey, look at me, look what I've done. No, I'm saying if this could happen to me, imagine what could happen to you. Thank you.
If this could happen to me, imagine what could happen to you. Here it is. He spoke his first words when he was 6 years old. He was a mute. And he studies. Even if you talk to Muhammad, I saw him last week, he still studies. But yet, instead of looking at the fact, oh, I studied, there's no way I can compete for the World Championship public speaking. I studied. He could have took that attitude. He didn't. He knew that there was something inside of him greater than that obstacle of studying. And he also had many difficulties. North Park Toastmasters Clubs. This is an old picture of North Park Toastmasters Club. As you see, there's a concave here, me here, Tommy here, and other people. Now, North Park Toastmasters had many trials. They didn't get support from their sponsor. Many of the meetings you go to would be less than this. I remember me and a county went to me, and there was about 3 people in the meeting. But they kept on having meetings. And Muhammad Tatani, he served as president, VP of education, VP of... He was always in the loop, doing something. And unlike some clubs, a lot of clubs would say, well, we don't have enough roll takers. Let's stop. That never stopped North Park. They would take on the members, and Muhammad Tatani was leading that, take on several roles. So ask Muhammad Tatani, how many roles did you take in a meeting? He said, I've taken 4 roles in a meeting. Okay? So they were not deterred. And those roles and the work that he did, I believe, developed him. Not only with North Park, he also supported SAMSO, now John Hopkins. He was there, and he worked. He was dedicated. And as a result, he did well in the championships in the contest. Now, this was in 2014. I think this is very significant. If you notice, there's 3 beautiful people who have 2 trophies in their hands. In fact, this is not working well, so I'm going to try to get up here. There's me with 2 trophies, Muhammad Tatani with 2 trophies, and Muhammad Isa with 2 trophies. I got first place for table topics, and I went on and became the district champion. I was 2nd place for the international speech contest. Now, Muhammad Tatani, he was third place for the international speech contest. So I beat him. I beat the world champion. And he was 2nd place for the humorous speech contest. And this old guy here that me and Tatani was going against, he was 1st place for international speech and 1st place for humorous speech. So me and Tatani at the time were plotting, were saying, maybe we can fight him over for dinner and poison him. We don't want to kill him, but poison him so he'll be not able to speak for one day, you know? So that we both can progress. So we would call, say, Muhammad Isa, we have a nice meal for you. Could you come? And he would never come. But this was 2014. He was 2nd place for international, for humorous, and 3rd place for international. Look what happened the following year. In 2015, he, for Division M, he was 1st place international speech.
Evaluation.
1st place humorous speech contest. And 1st place international speech contest. And he placed very high also in the table topics. So he climaxed. He reached the highest point. Not only that, he went on to the District 79 and was 1st place in the humorous speech contest. He was our district champion. And he was 2nd place in the international speech contest. But by a stroke of fate, that changed. The 1st place winner dropped out a few weeks before the contest. And that gave him an opportunity. And that opportunity led him to become the world champion of public speaking. He has a lot to celebrate. We have a lot to celebrate. Because he showed that despite his impediment, despite this obstacle, he can overcome. And like he said, if this could happen to me, what about you? You didn't. Any one of you were mute and didn't speak your first word after you were 6? No. But look how far he went. So that should inspire us and let us know, yes, if he could do it, we can do it too. Now the third person I want to talk about is my son, Ibn. This is some pictures of Ibn as a baby. Now when babies have problems, they can say, they don't know English or Arabic to communicate their problems to us. But he had a problem, a hearing problem. And we didn't know, the doctors didn't detect it. And for a good part of his life, he couldn't hear properly. And it was not until we got it tested when he was about 6 years old that we discovered that he had a real hearing problem. And he went through surgery, and the problem had fixed. But the formative years, from when he was born to 6, he missed out on a lot of things, nuances, things that are common sense to us as people who can hear. He missed out, and he was not really like my other sons in the sense of being able to quickly adapt things. You'll have to tell him over and over again, and then when you talk to him, there was a slowness to him. And this is my 5 sons, and this is me when I had hair.
That's not that's not your son. Clarify, that's not your son.
This is me. Well, he's not my son. He's my son best friend.
That answers the question.
My other son's not it, but my son Tariq, Kamal, Ibn. This is Ibn here. In school, he did okay in school, but he was a loner. You know, he didn't know how to socialize. I mean, he socialized with his brothers, his cousins, and so forth. But I was very concerned for him. I was more concerned for him than I was for any of my other children. Because I didn't think he had the equipment to deal with life. When he came here to Dhahran, you know, he went to Dhahran Academy. He enrolled in this statistical physics course. And at the beginning of the course, the teacher said, no, I don't think your son will be able to make it. It's too difficult for him. I don't think he got the capacity to handle it. And I talked to him and I said, Ibn, you should drop that course because I don't think you can make it. He said, no, Daddy, I can do it. And he worked hard. He studied. And by the end of the semester, he didn't get an A, he didn't get a B, but he got a strong C, which really impressed his teacher and impressed me because I didn't think he was able to do it. Then he went back to Houston, and he went to Houston Community College, and all of a sudden, I found out, and this is what he looks like today, that he got an academic scholarship to attend Polytechnic University in New York City. And that helped me because I didn't have to pay money. It was good for me too. But I didn't even know he was doing this. So I said, why did he? I want to go to New York City. I want to go to New York City. Not only that, he graduated with honors with a computer science degree. And also, he got accepted at the Vanguard Group as a programmer. How many of you are familiar with the Vanguard Group? They are more than $3 trillion company. They're one of the largest investment companies in the world. And for expats, they were the ones handling our retirement. So I would always tell them, find a way to program more money into my account for retirement. So he got accepted at Vanguard. And then a short period of time, he became the team lead for a group of IT developers for Vanguard. Not only that, Ibn started traveling. Now, where he worked in Vanguard was a place called King of Prussia's near Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. He started traveling back and forth to New York City several times a week. To do what? To learn acting. I said, that's a bit too much. He would travel to his acting class, come back, then go to work. And I said, that's too much. He said, Daddy, it's only for 6 months, and then I'll get my acting certificate, and then I can start acting. I said, well, look, that's a lot of sacrifice. That's a lot of pain to go through. But he did it. He got his acting certificate. And he started acting, doing plays. Some on Broadway, little plays, taking parts here, parts there. Then he acted in this play called Fences. And it caught the attention of Denzel Washington. And Denzel Washington decided to make a movie. And guess who he picked to be in the movie? He picked Ibn. So Ibn is now a part of that movie, and the movie's supposed to be out in December. So that's a big achievement from a little baby who couldn't hear. Now, he's acted in a lot of parts, and I just want to show you him in some of his actions. He's playing a boss here. A mean guy. And this is him.
Like call Alexa.
But
Not a Toastmaster.
But to come from someone who couldn't hear, even my wife, Akaki, can tell you, there was a time that my wife took a trip to Dubai with Ibn and his younger brother, Anwar. And Anwar is smart, he's sharp, you know, Anwar's good. And Akaki came back and she said, I noticed that Anwar was much more worldly wise than Ibn, even though Ibn is much older than him. But Anwar, you know, was more, but yet Ibn had that determination, and he takes on his projects, and he completed. Now, all three people that I talked about, this statement applies to them. The potential within you is greater than the obstacles around you. And I would say this statement applies to all of us. Our potential is greater than the obstacles that are around us. My father used to say, tough times never last, but tough people do. I like to say, the true measure of greatness is not looking at where you are or where a person has achieved. It's looking at where they came from to get to where they are. And the bigger the delta, the greater the person. And these three people exhibited that. And I want you, in your own life, if you have goals that you want to achieve, things that you want to do, know that you can do it. Don't let those obstacles block you. Remember these three examples. Remember the difficulties they faced. And remember the significant achievements that each one of them made in their lives and will continue making, never letting the obstacles hold them down. They are examples of overcoming difficulties. And I'd just like to end with a Quranic statement, إِنَّمَا الْحُسْنُ يُسْرًا. Surely after difficulty comes ease. Back to you.